This has been a fun year and a half, 2 years of supply chain issues. This is that Clark Penrose. I'm going to finish it up. And this replacement Jupiter I ordered a million years ago, feels like, finally arrived. So I can finish this up. And I'm going to put this cap in. And I'm going to remove the wires from the input jacks to those 68K resistors and remove the wire beneath the board going to the grids on the input, and put some resistors in like you'd find on a 60s Fender. And I don't know if I'm going to use shielded wire. I don't think it's really necessary, but some new wire that'll go beneath the boards to the socket and take away that DC present at the grid that I was unable to get out of here. It's repeat the problem for those who didn't see the first video. This is the junction of two of the 68K resistors on the input, the mixed resistors. And it is, what, 1/8 of an inch from this eyelet, which has the V plus node for the preamp, which is like 300 volts DC. And that DC just leaks through this board to right here. And there's even a little bit over here. These cardboard boards are not great as far as being inert, as being neutral, as being insulators. They actually conduct. And there's a reason that Fender went from this kind of layout in 59-60 to the later layout starting in 61, which is what you see in most Fenders from that point forward, where these resistors are mounted at the input jacks and the wire does not actually go through the board. So I'll leave these in place, I think, for cosmetics, but it's purely that, just to have something kind of pretty to look at there. Anyway, let me get started. And while I do this work, which is fairly basic work, I want to make a small announcement. It's not anything earth-shattering. But I just want to put it out there, especially for those who are wondering where my thing is. Where's my amp? When's my amp going to be done? I went out of town with my wife at the very beginning of June, which was the first time that we had really been out of the house in a year and a half, let alone done anything cool. And pretty much every day before that, for that same year and a half, I was having the same day every day. And that day involved pretty much getting up about 7:30 or 8, having 2 to 7 cups of coffee, and then working till about 6 o'clock at night, making dinner, having a little time with my wife. We'd watch maybe a TV show, or sometimes we'd splurge and watch 2 whole episodes. And after that, I would go back to work. She would go to bed. She's a college professor. She has to get up earlier than I do, a couple days a week, to travel to where her university is. And when she's not at the university during the day, she's upstairs grading and planning lectures and doing all that kind of fun stuff that real professors do that the ones on TV never seem to have to do. They're just kind of having cool little lives, and occasionally it's mentioned that, oh yeah, they teach college. Anyway, so during the day, whether she's here or not, she's upstairs working, or she's at her university working, and I'm downstairs working. And we have that maybe hour and a half, 2 hours together every night. And then she goes to bed before I do, and I stay up working until like 2 o'clock in the morning. And that gets kind of wearing, both in terms of our friendship and our relationship, because we like each other very much, or at least I'm totally nuts about her. And it gets very wearing for us as individuals, where, what do you do? I work. What else do you do? No, that's pretty much it. I work, and then I work some more, and sometimes I have coffee in between the work. I mean, the first 6-9 months of the pandemic were worse. Now, I say that fully aware that many people have had much worse experiences during this than I have had. People have lost loved ones, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not making light of any of the worst things that have happened. And for those in the healthcare industry, doctors and nurses, et cetera, you have mad respect for me. But, for the first 6-9 months, there was nothing at the grocery stores reliably, and money was an unknown thing because I didn't know how much this was going to get affected. I think I had a bologna sandwich for lunch every day for 6 months. I don't think I ever want to do that again, but it was one of the only things I could reliably get at the grocery store. So anyway, that all adds up, and working all the time just has really added up. And, since our little 1-year late honeymoon last June, every day I work, and that's weekends, that's nights. I don't have weekends. People say, what are you going to do this weekend? What is weekend? I know not this term. So we have decided that starting tomorrow through Sunday, we are going to turn off. We're going to disengage. We're going to stop working. We're going to have a couple of days, just the two of us. I'm trying to eyeball that. It's hard to measure these things when they're in place. And let's say 2.25. I think that's right. And that's what we're going to do. So I'm not going to be working on amps for a couple of days. I'm not going to be making videos about amps for a couple of days. I am going to spend time with my wife, whom I like better than any of you, no offense. And we are going to kind of refresh our batteries and then come back bigger and badder than ever. But being in the same routine every day with no social lives, et cetera, it just can't go on much longer. And it's getting to the point where with the amps, between parts delays and only so many hours in the day, and to some small degree, the increasing popularity of this channel and awareness of my work, I just have a lot of work I need to do, and I need to have it done last week. And I've been having a hard time keeping up, and then parts delays like this one, which are just ludicrous any other year for 2020 and 2021. This is what happens. And people say, when's my amp going to be done? When it's done. That's all I can say, and I understand that that's frustrating. And I get people who have emailed me that I have not had a chance to reply. I think I may cheat a little bit this weekend and over coffee reply to some emails. But the volume of emails I get, it could be a full-time job just answering emails. And I'm just the one guy, and I've got to get the work done too. It's not just about communications. And I know that I've gone too far in the direction of not replying in any kind of timely basis. But I haven't had any kind of time. And I'm not making excuses or saying, well, just deal with it. That's how it is. There are guys in this industry, in this field, who get weird about that kind of stuff, But I don't want to be one of those guys. I want to say, yeah, okay, thank you. I'd love to work on your amp. This is what it would need, most likely, and this is what it would probably cost, and you get to green light it before any work's done, and then I imagine it'll take, 2 years ago I could say it'll take 2 weeks. Now I'm like, week and a half, 6 months, depending on the parts availability. And Lord willing, and the creek don't rise. For the past couple of years, the creek has been rising a lot, and it's just kind of beyond my control. So I love what I do, or most of the time I do, have done in the past, want to again, And I don't feel that in the last 6 months I have been doing as good a job as I could with communications, with answering questions, et cetera, et cetera. And some of it is I just felt very worn down. By the time I get to a stopping point with the work for the day, I usually am about 10 minutes from crashing. You know, grab a shower, brush your teeth, and you sit there for 10 minutes remembering, oh yeah, I was going to put on a sock. Let's take these tubes out so I don't rest the weight of the chassis on them. I want to access these grid wires. So, you know, I'm not being poor, pitiful me, or I don't mean to. I think a little bit of a reset will do me a world of good. And hopefully getting this leaky DC out of this Penrose will do it a world of good. So I guess I'll stop there for this section because I'm just rambling, and what I'm doing now is not much fun to look at. Just getting the old wires out so I can get the new ones in. I will say that Clark did a good job of getting some mechanical support to his wires before he made the solder joints. I'm pleased with 95% of this amp as he built it. I think he copied a few of Leo's mistakes, so they're vintage correct mistakes. But that's about the worst I can say for it. Anyway, I'm going to stop here, and then once I'm done with this, I'll do a little quick playing bit. We'll see if that DC is gone. All right. As you can see, new resistors are mounted on the jacks themselves. And if I have the normal channel going right now, if I move the volume on the guitar, not getting any of that nastiness that I was getting. Let me measure that to confirm on both that the leakage is gone. I'm sure that it is because I can hear the absence of nasty. No DC there. It's going to sound terrible when I measure that. I'll do the next one with the volume off so we won't get that. But no DC there either. And that one sounds. All right, that sounds pretty good. Let's move this to the other room and set up the real mic. To reiterate the problems this amp had, it had DC leakage on the grids of the input triodes. And that both put a lot of noise on the guitar if you move the volume pot, and affected the bias conditions of that tube, because the bias of a triode in a cathode bias circuit, which is what most triodes in guitar amplifiers are, you want to have a positive voltage at the cathode and no voltage at the grid, or at least have much more voltage on the cathode than on the grid. The grid must be negative in comparison. So as DC voltage increases on the grid because of a leak, it throws the bias off, which doesn't just put scratchiness on the pot of a guitar, but it really affects the behavior of the amp at high volume. So let's see how the amp is sounding now that that grid leakage is gone. Well, the Super is not my favorite of the Tweed era circuits, but this is what a Super Tweed sounds like, the one that this is copying. And I think it's, for what that is, it's sounding very good. And, you know, so mission accomplished as far as what I was asked to do is concerned. And they do have a really pretty clean sound on these things. I'm gonna call this one done.